in Sacramento tonight, and we start with two out of the SEC, Oklahoma and South Carolina. One of these teams moving on to the Elite Eight on Monday. Let's take a look at tonight's starting lineups, brought to you by Capital One. And Steph, every player you're going to see in the starting lineup for both teams averages double figures.
I mean, these are two of the teams that are really rely on their starters for a majority of their scoring. Sahara Williams, I think, is going to be a key tonight.
And looking at the South Carolina starting lineup, how important is Medina Okot?
I think she's really important. Medina Okot was not playing the same way in their meeting in January that she is now. She is impacting the ball game.
Well, Dawn Staley seeking her 50th NCAA tournament win at South Carolina. She has taken them to new heights. 7 Final Four appearances in the last 10 seasons. She's a 3-time national champ. And Jenny Baranczyk, she's been a top 5 seed every year at Oklahoma, hoping to take one more step to the Elite Eight this year. Haven't been there since 2010. Crimson and Garnet battle in the Sweet 16. Medina Okot and Reagan Beers to start us off. Raven Johnson scoops it, and South Carolina's got the basketball. Tania Latson, last year's leading scorer in the nation, transferred him from Florida State. Here she goes, looking at the basket, looking to score, and she does.
Tough shot right away. Going to Tania Latson, having her attack the basket. You use Tessa Johnson as a floor spacer.
Reagan Beers at the top of the key.
And look at that defense right away. Raven Johnson, denial of Aaliyah Chavez.
Raven Johnson, I mean, that is one of her strengths. She is a defensive-minded player.
I loved it when we were talking to her yesterday, and she talked about how frustrated she gets when she gets scored on. She really takes it personal.
Steph, she said she gets angry, not frustrated.
Well, she did say angry.
Tessa Johnson, an elite three-point shooter, inside to Joyce Edwards, the stellar sophomore. Reagan Beers with the rebound. Early on in this game, what do you expect the pace to be?
These are two of the fastest-paced teams in the country. I expect it to be up and down, and in different ways. Oklahoma up and down, liking to shoot the three. South Carolina up and down, liking to get to the rim.
Tania Latson's going to pop a three. Uh-oh, she brought her shot to Sacramento.
She sure did. A 29% three-point shooter, lighting it up early.
Watson's got 5. She had 12 in the second round against USC. Almost halfway there. Zaya Van, the dish over to Sahara Williams in the short corner. That rattles out. South Carolina, Dawn Staley talked about, look, we're not motivated by a loss last time we played Oklahoma. We're motivated because we want to advance in this tournament to the Elite Eight.
Well, that's just a different mindset and championship mindset and a standard that South Carolina has. And I like it right away. Tania Latson, aggressive on the offensive end, gets to the rim early, then feeling comfortable, knocking it down from 3.
When you heard Tania Latson was going in the portal and then that she was going to South Carolina, what were your first thoughts about that move?
It's just a perfect fit. I mean, certainly she has the familiarity with Raven Johnson, those two playing together, but the opportunity to grow her game. She was a ball-dominant player at Florida State, now learning how to play with other players as Raven Johnson pushes tempo, and most importantly, continuing to grow on the defensive end, wanting to be challenged.
Is she a better pro prospect now?
I think she's a better pro prospect because of being in this system. And you see her numbers, certainly her scoring was up, but her ability to play with other great players, you didn't know, and now you do.
Joyce Edwards dishing it off to Raven Johnson up off the window, and South Carolina's out to a 7-0 lead. Sahara Williams gets a paint touch. They got to get it to Reagan Beers in the paint.
You see Medina Okot really working to keep Reagan Beers from getting a touch. Activity level is going to be critical.
You mentioned it, Medina Okot looks like a totally different player than the last time back on January 22nd when she battled Beers.
She's playing with a different confidence level, her activity on both ends of the floor.
And tonight, Latson is going to be fouled. That's on Sahara Williams. It'll be her first. For Medina Okot, last 10 games, 14 points per game. She's averaging a double-double with 7 double-doubles during that span.
Well, you've seen her confidence just continue to grow, and that's one thing Dawn Staley talked about. She hadn't been challenged in the way that she's been challenged here at South Carolina. There were some inconsistencies early, learning how to play at a high level consistently. and she's playing her best basketball in these moments.
Ocott is going to come out, and Miriam Dowda will check in for South Carolina. Latson bounces around the first inning.
And I don't think this is a surprise. I think a strategic substitution. Reagan Beers goes to the bench. Medina Ocott goes to the bench. Try to keep that matchup as much as you can. Size and physicality.
One more coming. It was a three-point shot, of course, that Latson was fouled on. She gets all three. What a start for tonight. Latson, 8 of South Carolina's 10 points. Zaya Van trying to cook and gets finally Oklahoma on the board. Raven Johnson directing traffic. Gives it up to Latson.
And this is right here an opportunity to get Joyce Edwards a touch. You really got to be focused on it, but she's got to continue to work. Raven Johnson bringing it back towards her.
Found the lane, snuck around Zaya Van. Aaliyah Chavez. She was so big in overtime, dropped 15 points in overtime against South Carolina to help Oklahoma win.
Yeah, 15 of their 19, and you heard Megan McEwen talking about it. She can be a microwave, there's no doubt about it.
Tessa Johnson rejecting the screen. In trouble, and Sahara Williams scrapping on the floor for the basketball. Up ahead to Stewart. Too much. Oklahoma's going to keep the basketball. Oh, excuse me, South Carolina basketball. Reagan Beers back in the ballgame for Oklahoma.
Yeah, and you can't have her out for too long. I think this is strategic substitutions, giving her in and out. You see Ocott comes off the bench, getting back to the scorer's table as well.
In that first meeting, early on, Oklahoma made a specific effort to get Reagan Beers the basketball in the paint.
I think they've got to continue to make those specific efforts. If you don't have those transition threes that they like to take, she's got to get a touch. Continue to put pressure on the interior. And I think the timing of when she gets it is really important. She does her work early. You got to hit her on time. You got to hit her on target.
Let's see if they do that on the other end. Tessa Johnson with time here. Medina Ocott trying to post up on Beers. Ocott got to work her way back from underneath the basket, got her own board. Beers almost had it. Raven to the paint, elevating. Rebound by Beers.
That's really good defense. Playing in the two-man, forcing Raven Johnson to almost over-dribble into certain situations and make her play one-on-one.
Well, and Raven Johnson almost got it back. It's going to stay with Oklahoma.
Well, I like the idea from Dawn Staley, using Ocott to go right at Reagan Beers. Best way to attack her on the defensive end, but that is just terrific one-on-one defense. Does a good job of getting her hand on the basketball.
Oklahoma's offense gets a lot of attention, but their defense is one of the best that they've had since the 2015-16 season. Agatha McKeer is checked into the game. She passes up ahead to Joyce Edwards. Can't finish through the contact. McKeer. And a foul. It'll be Sooner basketball.
Dead ball possession right now. You got to find a way to get Reagan Beers a touch. And you got to give Medina Ocott credit right now. Her activity level is really good on the defensive end of the floor, but it's got to be multiple actions. You're not going to get it first pass in offense. South Carolina's too good defensively.
Sorry, no foul called on that. Just a possession for Oklahoma. Tried to force the pass in traffic. Raven Johnson made him pay. McKeer. Stays on this end. Zaya Van almost had herself a steal. South Carolina out in front in the Sweet 16. They lead Oklahoma 12-4.
In different ways. South Carolina averaging 20 points a ball game in the fast break. They like to get two-pointers. Oklahoma, on the other hand, like to get threes in their transition, averaging 16 points in the break as well.
Pace of this game, we are fine to run. Grab your track shoes, lace them up tight. ready to rock with these two teams. So far, it's been South Carolina up an advantage early, 12-4. Chris, what'd you hear on the Oklahoma sideline?
Well, you guys talk about South Carolina's pace. That's exactly what Oklahoma would like to do on the offensive end. Jenny Bronchek telling her team, we're not in the business of hesitation. We got to move. We got to keep the basketball moving and use our pace to our advantage.
We'll see if they can do that. Change of possession. They also do not have a paint touch for Reagan Beers yet. Tanaya Latson trying to hit Ocott on the roll. Here comes Raven Johnson. 5 seconds. Joyce Edwards. Ocott got the rebound. Turned right into a double team, and she traveled. That defense from Oklahoma showing up.
Yeah, it's really good defense. And Peyton Verhulst was on Ocott that possession. Couldn't keep her off the boards, but a great job of Oklahoma of swarming once she got it.
South Carolina now 0 for their last 5. But Oklahoma hasn't scored in over 2 minutes. And that's going to be an offensive foul.
I think the screen on Reagan Beers.
Yeah, that's Beers' first.
That's not how you want to get your fouls if you're Reagan Beers. You certainly want to give her an opportunity to battle down low, but not on an illegal screen.
Yeah, it is critical she stays out of foul trouble for Oklahoma. Reagan Beers taking it away from Latson. Peyton Verhulst will push. Taking the transition 3, rattles out. Beers coming in for the rebound. And there are her first points tonight.
And her first touch in the paint comes off of an offensive rebound. I love the way Reagan Beers defended and then got down the floor to get that O-board.
Medina Ocott looking for a 3. That's something they've added to her game.
Well, Dawn Staley said it's something that she's had. She just didn't find a comfort zone in it early.
Her 13th made 3 of the season for Medina Ocott, a player that started basketball when she was 17 years old. Verhulst coming across the lane. Trying to work on Latson. Little fadeaway, leaves it short. Just off the fingertips of Joyce Edwards, and Keziah Lofton saved it for OU. Chavez looking for a triple.
Hey, that's what they want in transition. They want to push pace. They want to be able to knock it down from 3. Leah Chavez not showing any sign of nerves in her first Sweet 16 appearance.
Oh, of course not. A freshman who's averaging almost 19 points per game. Scramble on the forward possession arrow keeps us on this end with South Carolina.
I mean, it's so dangerous when you're a team like Oklahoma and can shoot the 3 in transition. Yes, you got to get matched up. There's a miscommunication defensively. There's nobody in the paint to be protecting. You got to find near man. You got to get out and defend the 3.
Leah Chavez was the number 3 overall recruit in this class, the National Player of the Year coming out of high school. She won the McDonald's 3-point contest. Reagan Beers taking a seat for Oklahoma. Ocott's got the size advantage on Sahara Williams. Tessa Johnson. There it is.
That's not the one I'd be digging off of right there.
No.
Going to dig. In the one-on-one matchup on the interior, you cannot leave Tessa Johnson.
She is 6th in the nation in 3-point percentage. Chavez with a 2.
Nice cut.
Keziah Lofton cut into the basket, and Sahara Williams was the one to dump it to her. Maddie McDaniel's turn to operate for the Gamecocks. Eight seconds. Ocott's gonna take it. Too much. Chavez looking, lobs it up to Verhulst, and turns it over. Raven!
Great one-on-one. Raven Johnson knew she had an advantage, didn't draw the defender, so she goes up and finishes. I think those are the 3s in transition, the growth of Aaliyah Chavez. When they're a contested 3, you don't have any rebounders down the floor. When you can get a ball reversal, when you start to sense the opponent's going on a run, that's going to be the growth edge for her.
seconds here for Maddie McDaniel. We got McKeer. Bounces out. Okot's got her back. Kaya Smith was just hustling Raven Johnson, standing there waiting. Chavez answers with a layup. You blink and Oklahoma can score.
That's right. That's right. And this is where you're going to see South Carolina. If they don't have it in transition, they're going to be real intentional about execution in the quarter court.
That's going to be an offensive foul against Medina Okot.
I think now's an opportunity to bring Reagan Beers back. Okot's out of the game. Dawn Staley left her in when Beers went to the bench. Maybe an opportunity to get her back in and take advantage.
She's still sitting over there on the Oklahoma bench as Okot takes that seat with one foul. Reagan Beers also with one foul.
Yeah, time and score.
It's OU's last shot to take if they want it. Chavez steps back and it gets touched by South Carolina. Almost had the scoop. And South Carolina's got a 10-point lead after 10 minutes in the Sweet 16. The NCAA Women's Championship. Steph White, we've been talking to Reagan Beers.
Yeah.
I mean, can they get her involved more? How do they do that?
They've got to find ways to get her some post-entry touches. Sometimes it's in transition, but certainly when it's a dead ball, when the possession slows down, you got to run some actions. I don't think it's going to be first side of offense. South Carolina's too good, too solid defensively. I think you got to get some breaking down, rotations in the defense, get it on the second or third side.
She's not in right now. Is that surprising? I mean, I think she's just got one foul.
Yeah, she's got the one foul. I was a little surprised she wasn't in for the last offensive possession, just because you get one possession, you're not going back on the defensive end of the floor. But I do think for us, or for Oklahoma, to be able to get her touches on the interior, it's got to be a priority. This cannot just be shooting three-point shots and her chasing down offensive rebounds.
Beers, just her one shot in this game was an offensive rebound putback. Now Chavez with the basketball, the ESPN National Freshman of the Year. She's got 7 points. And Brooklyn Stewart's going to throw it away. What have you liked on the South Carolina end so far?
They're just playing at the pace that they want to play at. When they have opportunities in transition, they're pushing it. When they don't, they're really forcing Oklahoma to defend. They're getting the best shot on the floor. Jenny Bronchek talks about those 50-50 balls. I feel like their activity has been really good, digging in, getting the hand on it. They just haven't been able to come away with it cleanly.
Reagan Beers and Peyton Verhulst will check into the game now. Beers with just 2 points, 1 shot attempt. She does have 3 rebounds. And Medina Okot not in the game for South Carolina. They've been playing that matchup a little bit. Zaya Van throws it away. Chavez tried to save it. A rematch from a game on January 22nd that went to overtime and saw Oklahoma into 3-game losing streak and beat the #2 team in the nation at the time, South Carolina.
Well, I think a situation right now where Oklahoma just needs to settle in. It seems like there's a little bit of nerve. Jenny Bronchek got on her team yesterday in practice, but she didn't feel the sense of urgency from them. South Carolina, they've been here. They understand the moment, and Tanaya Latson stays hot.
Tanaya Latson is 3 for 4 to start this game. Sahara Williams can't get the bucket to go. Beers pokes it away for a second. I got McKeer in the corner. 5 threes to start this game for South Carolina.
A South Carolina team that averages 6 a ball game.
We just started the second quarter.
Yes, again, missed opportunity right there to get Reagan Beers a touch. I think that's one of those moments where she's really got to demand it.
Sahara Williams just out of her reach.
And I think that's 3 straight turnovers for Oklahoma. There's a really good job of execution. Draw a secondary defender. Good decision-making by Tanaya Latson. I got McKeer, knocks it down.
And Oklahoma calls time out. South Carolina up now 28-13. She took her talents from Florida to Columbia, South Carolina, and has improved her all-around game. And she started this game, Stephanie White, with 10 points, 3 of 4 from the field.
Red hot. You know, this is a young woman in Tanai Latson that wanted to be challenged, that wanted to prepare herself to be a better professional, and she's been able to do that in Dawn Staley's system, and it certainly helps when you have a comfort level with a point guard like Raven Johnson.
It's almost automatic. South Carolina has controlled this game from the start. They're on a 10-2 run. Johnson pulls it back out. McKeer. Get the screen from Edwards. 3 seconds for Agat McKeer. I mean, just saw the opening.
That's just a great take by Agat McKeer. She gets the advantage. She takes away the defender's space.
Reagan Beers with a touch. And around Joyce Edwards.
And she cannot keep doing it on her own. Got to find a way to get her touches.
4 points. 2 for 2 from the field for Reagan Beers, but she's had to create both of those. And Raven Johnson in the corner.
It is tough to play South Carolina when they're shooting the 3 like they are here this afternoon.
They have hit their game average in the second quarter. 6 threes by 5 different players.
And there you go, the first touch in the quarter court for Reagan Beers. Look, she had her way with South Carolina. I thought she was able to get touches. She was able to get the South Carolina bigs in foul trouble, and right away, right on cue, Okot at the scorer's table.
Raven Johnson likes that side of the floor right now.
She's on a mission. She is on a mission. She understands the magnitude of a game like this, how to be locked in.
Beers got the touch in the paint. Second opportunity here, Zaya Van weaving. And Van fouled by Maddie McDaniel.
I mean, Raven Johnson from the beginning of the game has been locked in. She's been aggressive on the offensive end. She has dictated tempo, does a great job of attacking, not over penetrating. I love what she told us yesterday about the loss to Oklahoma in January. It reminded us of our standard. We cannot get complacent. You can't be so enthralled with what we've done that we take it for granted. We got to keep our good habits. It's contagious. And she said they felt disappointed in the locker room after that ball game. And boy, she's come out and set the tone.
Absolutely, a player that hit her 1,000th career point in their second round game in Columbia, but didn't want to talk about it. Was just locked in on the next one. She'll get a breather here. An All-American for the first time in her career. South Carolina on this side has hit its last 5 shots. Here's a turnover, though. Zaya Van transition 3. So Hera Williams almost had it. She's fouled by Medina Okot. That's her second. So Alicia Tornaby is now at the table to check in for South Carolina. A player that joined the team mid-year from France. Sahara Williams, watch out if she gets going. I feel like she's the heartbeat of this Oklahoma team.
She really is, and she's such a difference maker. She's a connector, averaging almost 14 points a ball game the last 7. They need to find a way to get her going.
But before the last meeting with South Carolina pregame, Jenny Baranchuk sat down with Sahara Williams, and Sahara said, I feel like if we don't show up, if I don't show up, we're not good. And Jenny said, yeah, you're right. Do you want a different role? And she said, absolutely not.
I mean, she is. She's the heartbeat of what they do, and she's so important on both ends of the floor.
Brooklyn Stewart with the save. Chavez stepping into the 3. Tornaby's on the glass. Raven Johnson was waiting to check in at the scorer's table. She was standing up directing Maddie McDaniel on what to run.
That's your senior leader right there. Nice pass.
Tornabees.
Great touch pass by Joyce Edwards.
And South Carolina ball as they can't get it to Verhulst.
South Carolina's quarter-court execution has been terrific. Great touch pass by Joyce Edwards. Alicia Tornabees gets an easy two.
The NCAA.
I mean, she is an All-American on the interior. The more touches she gets, the easier shots you'll get in the quarter court. South Carolina's an excellent defensive team. They are not going to allow you to get the easy ones, so you really have to work the defense to get high percentage looks.
On the other side for South Carolina, you look at their offensive numbers. Stephanie, they're 6 of 8 from 3.
I mean, they are shooting it outstanding from the three-point line, but they're getting open shots. And in the first round and second round games, Dawn Staley challenged her team to make the open shots. And right now, they are very settled in. They're working. You're getting it from multiple people on the floor. 6 of 8 from the three-point line. I just love the way they're moving the ball. I love that they're taking what the defense is giving them.
It's a South Carolina offense that would set a single season record for points per game. They would break the record of the 2024 National Championship team. They're averaging 87.2 a game. Shooting 54% from the field to start the Sweet 16. Beers in the ballgame on defense. Okot is out for South Carolina. She's got 2 fouls. Raven Johnson still cooking. That's your update. 16 for Raven. Verhulst, fade away. She can be an elite scorer.
She can, and that's a tough shot. And you see for Oklahoma, every shot they're taking is a highly contested, tough shot. I like the change. Coming out of the timeout, with a little three-quarter court pressure into the zone, giving a different look.
Eilertson back to Joyce Edwards. Raven Johnson had all day to stand there, left it a little bit short. Joyce got it back.
Gotta find a way to find a body in the zone.
Tornabees, very capable of making that three-point shot. She's hit 4 of them this season in her half a season. Remember, joined the program mid-year. Well, coverage of the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship continues tomorrow with the Elite 8 at 2 p.m. Eastern on CBS. For more tournament game times, go to ncaa.com. I think both our alma maters are playing in the Men's Elite 8.
That's right,
Purdue and Tennessee. Not playing each other, obviously, but
yeah, we might have some bragging rights on the.
I don't think I'd be talking to you
there.
Tessa Johnson. Guy Smith on the glass.
You know, we heard Coach McGraw talk about this coming out of break, but you really got to work the defense. You got to get some passing. You got to get the ball moving side to side. Again, multiple touches, 2 people, but the ball never got reversed. South Carolina is an excellent defensive team. The quick shot and the shot that you want early is not going to be there, or very rarely going to be there.
When you reverse that basketball, what does it force the defense to do?
It just forces a shift, a slight shift. If you can reverse, if you can attack off of a reversal, force a rotation, get a higher percentage look, run multiple off-ball screening actions.
There's going to be a foul whistled down low. Tornabees had gone around, but she's going to be whistled for the foul for going around Beers, and that is her second. Remember, Medina Okot already has 2 fouls for South Carolina. Their starting post player. And so Miriam Dowda is going to check in for the Gamecocks.
And again, I think opportunities to get Beers touches. No Okot who can really match her from a size and physicality standpoint. The first time these 2 teams met, Adele Tack played almost 11 minutes in that ball game, giving more size and physicality. She's not available. There you go. Couldn't deliver it.
Miriam Dowda had her covered up. Gamecocks shooting 50% from the field, shooting 60% from 3. And Latson is fouled. First against Brooklyn Stewart of Oklahoma. It'll put Taniyah Latson at the free throw line.
We're going to watch this replay and watch when Joyce Edwards, if we roll it right here, when Joyce Edwards catches the ball. See what happens. It's a collapse of the defense. 1, 2, 3. What happens then? You get no rotation on the backside. Taniyah Latson, that is terrific read on the cut, making herself available. But that's the gravity of a player like Joyce Edwards. She doesn't have to necessarily score the ball or shoot the ball, but the awareness of everybody on the floor with where she is and when she gets her touches.
You talk about that awareness. Joyce Edwards told us yesterday in the first meeting with Oklahoma, she said, we played as individuals. Now we play together, and that's a great example of that.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Understanding the connectedness that Dawn Staley likes to talk about as Peyton Verhulst gets a three.
Verhulst with 5 points for the Sooners. Latson down the lane, around 2 defenders. Taniyah Latson. This will stay with Oklahoma after the missed 3 from Reagan Beers.
Look at how aggressive Taniyah Latson is to the rim. I mean, this is vintage Taniyah Latson right here. The ability to break down defense one-on-one, a tough contest, goes over an outstretched arm. We know she's a player who can score the basketball, and now she's learned to find her spots.
Yeah, she's talked about shot selection, and that, you know, she was the main offensive weapon at Florida State, but now she's not getting as many shots. She's got to be smart about when she takes them.
And she's got to be efficient in the ones that she's getting.
She's shooting about 50% from the field, so there you go.
Pretty efficient.
Yeah. Foul was whistled against Joyce Edwards, her first, and Sahara Williams at the free throw line for Oklahoma. South Carolina controlled this game from the start. They used a 10-0 run to take an advantage in the first quarter. Haven't looked back. McKeer back to Latson. Uh-oh. The old 4-point play.
And that was such good defense until the last 6 seconds when you lost Taniyah Latson and then trying to get out there to contest, overrun, made the contact. And that's the margin of error that Jenny Baranczyk was talking about. You have to be on all the time. It's a possession ball game. As soon as you have a breakdown, South Carolina takes advantage.
That's the second time tonight she's been fouled on a three-pointer. First one she didn't hit, but she hit all 3 free throws. Beers turns, a long 2.
Those are the ones you're going to live with if you're South Carolina. You want Reagan Beers taking those shots as opposed to getting those touches in the paint.
Now Gamecocks can take the last shot of the half. Maddie McDaniel swatted away by Oklahoma. Sahara Williams misses the layup. South Carolina comes out in the Sweet 16. They shoot over 50% from the field, over 60% from 3, and they lead 47-28 at the half.
This is what we've seen Right, South Carolina has been dominant in this NCAA tournament. Their attention to detail and focus on full display.
Tanaya Latson has 18 points. She's 5 of 6 from the field, and she's with Chris.
Tanaya, you got this offense going from the tip, including the 7 threes that you guys have. What's allowed you guys to operate this offense so cleanly?
We're just being patient. That's something that coach is focusing on. Just being patient, cutting, and playing hard. That's something that we knew we had to come in and do against this Oklahoma team.
Against this kind of an offense as well, what has worked so well on the defensive end?
Just being aggressive, not letting our man cut to the basket, cut across our face, playing with the first punch. That's something that we got to do. We knew we had to come out here and play good defense. They're a really good offensive team.
Good luck in the second half.
Thank you so much.
Courtney?
I'm not sure South Carolina could be further from Columbia, South Carolina, but man, they sure look at home here in Sacramento. A complete team effort on both tournament. Yeah, it was a big wake-up call the last time they played Oklahoma. And here is tonight's Need to Know. It's brought to you by Intuit QuickBooks. We mentioned the three-pointers. Tanaya Latson and Raven Johnson have accounted for 34 points. Reagan Beers for Oklahoma didn't get going till late.
Yeah,
Chris, what did you hear from Jenny Baranczyk about this Oklahoma team?
Her message at halftime was we had to come out and play more energy. That includes the offensive end. We got to use our pace more. And then everything that Stephanie had said in that first half, they got to find more paint touches and had to be able to get Reagan Beers the ball. So listen, I know that South Carolina is a great team, a great shooting team as well, but we got to have to go over loose balls to be able to get some more touches of our own.
Yeah, and look, when you're a team like Oklahoma who can get hot from the three-point line, who can score them quickly, you're never out of a ball game, but you've got a string to get the moments that I felt like Tanaya Latson's decision-making. You had a 3-on-1. Tessa Johnson was at the three-point line. Raven Johnson running right beside you. At that moment, she could have given it up and maybe gotten it back.
Zia Van, too much. It'll stay on this side with Oklahoma.
Those block charges are hard. I feel like that could have been an opportunity for us to talk to Violet over here.
I know. Violet Palmer, our rules analyst.
Steph, you did a nice job with the, she established legal guarding position.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm coachable. I'm coachable.
I love it.
Brooklyn Stewart's going to check into the game, so it'll be Stewart and Beers into the ball game for Oklahoma. South Carolina's got Medina Okot down there in the paint. Beers on her. Okot picked up 2 fouls in the first half. Latson eyes up, back to Okot. Tessa Johnson saved that from being a turnover and turned it into 2.
Yeah, that's a heck of a play by Tessa Johnson and a missed opportunity for Leah Chavez in Oklahoma.
Beers in trouble, picked up her dribble. Peyton Verhulst not giving up on the play.
The energy is better for Oklahoma already in this third quarter, but again, you got to string together some stops. And I love how disciplined South Carolina is being in the quarter court, making sure they're getting the shot and the action that they want. Tessa Johnson's coming off of this.
Right to the elbow she goes. Back-to-back buckets for Tessa.
Latson and Raven Johnson carry you in the first half. Now you're getting Tessa Johnson going in the second.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Over her head, Aaliyah Chavez. Remember, first meeting, not a great first half for Aaliyah Chavez. And in the second half in overtime, she just turned it up a gear.
She sure did. She took over overtime. She can heat up quickly. She can score in bunches.
And on this side, South Carolina has scored on 5 of their 7 possessions here in the third quarter. Won't get a score on that. Verhulst. Deep 3 is short.
See how intentional South Carolina's being, though, about slowing it down, working their execution. This is an area that Dawn Staley wants her team to continue to improve, and how about that?
Tessa Johnson just shot that from the scorer's table. And South Carolina gets it back. You know, we talked to Tessa yesterday about what goes through her head when she lets a shot go up. She says her dad taught her to shoot, so she hears his voice with little pointers and little cues in her head. South Carolina just fluid, just cooking, and Oklahoma's got to call a timeout.
Well, you got to find your shooter. Tessa Johnson doesn't need much time and space. That looks picture perfect, and Raven Johnson continues to stay aggressive to the rim. WBA uniform kind of reminds me of somebody over on the sideline right now that used to wear that UVA uniform in the way she takes control of the ball game.
Ooh, Dawn Staley?
When you think about the runs that Dawn Staley's teams made back in those days with an elite point guard.
Well, after this game concludes, we'll get you to that game. We step aside now. South Carolina up under 5 minutes to go here in the third quarter. Well, Tessa Johnson's got 12 points. She's 5 of 6 from the field.
4 of 4 in the second half. You can tell it's a concerted effort by South Carolina to get her involved on the offensive end. And we didn't see it initially from the three-point line. Did a great job of getting herself to the rim in the mid-range. That loosens up the defense, and then she gets to the three.
Who can guard Tessa? The question.
Always going to be a question out there.
So far, no one's answered it yet. Reagan Beers at the free throw line. She was fouled by Joyce Edwards. That was on the back of Chloe Kitts' sweatshirt, who unfortunately has missed this season out with an ACL. Had surgery back in October. You know, you did wonder how that was going to impact South Carolina. You think it put a little bit more on Joyce Edwards?
It absolutely did. And Dawn Staley talked about that. It gave Joyce Edwards the ability to grow through some things she might not have been able to with Chloe Kitts on the floor.
Tessa gives it back to Joyce, shooting over 2 defenders. Joyce Edwards now with 6, all of those points coming here in the third quarter, and Aaliyah Chavez, a tough shot falling to the ground. Chavez feeding Beers.
And you could hear Jenny Baranczyk saying, get it in, get it in, get it in. Good things happen when you can get Reagan Beers a touch. Now, if you're Oklahoma, can you string a couple of these stops together?
Allie Tornabees at the free throw line. There's a back-to-back stop for Oklahoma.
Now you got to get a score. You got to convert them.
Chavez lets it fly. Tessa Johnson back to Joyce Edwards. Swatted away by Brooklyn Stewart. Tessa got it back, turnaround.
Possessions, 50-50s.
I think Keziah Lofton was ready to get on the other end. Tessa's got the ball. She's got 11 points in the third quarter.
And the patience of South Carolina to really get what they want, to understand that these are the areas that they've got to continue to grow, working the clock.
I think Tornabee's got a hand on it.
So, you know, selective with their opportunities to push in transition. When you have an advantage, you take it. If not, you're disciplined and you come back out and you execute offense.
Courtney, you go back to that January 22nd meeting when South Carolina lost against Oklahoma, and we asked the players, like, what was Dawn Staley like in the locker room? And they said, she wasn't mad. She was more like disappointed, which sometimes when you hear that from your parents is almost a worse thing. They said back at practice, though, the next couple of days, it did get a lot worse. But when I talked to Coach Staley about it before the game today, she said, sometimes those losses help you because when you win several in a row, it can mask the problems, some of the holes that your team has, and those get exposed in a loss. They went on to win 12 straight after that. She said, I kind of thought our team needed that to see what we were and what we can be.
Chris, I was in those practices after the Oklahoma loss. Can confirm that Dawn was pretty fired up, and then they just destroyed Vanderbilt after that. Contact underneath, and Reagan Beers hit the deck.
And when you can win and you're playing through slippage, oftentimes as a coach, it's hard to continue to hold them accountable to the standard because they don't see the impact of it, right? As a coach, you see the impact of it and what you're really preparing for. But in a loss, it gets their attention. Joyce Edwards talked to us about we weren't playing connected, we weren't playing together. Raven Johnson talked about playing to the standard and not playing to the score, not playing to how many games you've won in a row. All that is so important, and having Raven Johnson, the senior leader who's been here, who's won championships, on the floor in these moments throughout the course of a ball game to relay that message in real time has been critical, I think, for South Carolina and their growth.
Yeah, her individual growth has just permeated this whole team. Dawn Staley had a conversation with Raven Johnson in the offseason and asked her, what are your goals? And then she told her, she said, Raven, how are you going to do these things if you don't work at it? And she said, Coach, I am working at it. She said, not enough. And Raven took that to heart and went to work even harder. Look at the results.
And you give Raven Johnson a lot of credit for being able to hear that and to take that message, to grow through that. Nobody wants to hear that what you're doing is not enough and how you're doing it isn't enough. But you look at these numbers, and all she's done in this program is win. And her assist numbers, third in career rankings as well. But to take it and to apply it and then see the results from it.
Reagan Beers shut that down. Sahara Williams over to Verhulst. They'll swing it to the corner to Van. Chavez keeping an eye up. Sahara Williams at the free throw line, in and out. A minute to go here in the third quarter.
Miscommunication.
Tornabee's missed it.
That's good transition defense from South Carolina. And again, a missed opportunity for Oklahoma. You get a stop, you get an opportunity to go get a quick score, maybe a 2-for-1. And now you're getting into a lower clock situation.
Tornabee's with a block. Look, South Carolina's won for their last 10, but Oklahoma hasn't been able to take advantage.
Not able to convert on the other end. This is a great individual effort by Tornabee's, using that length and the outstretched arm.
Chavez in the corner. Points now for Chavez. South Carolina can take the final shot of the quarter. Put back by Ocott. Chavez with a heave. But 10 minutes to go, and South Carolina handily in front, 68-49. Elite Eight in sight, 10 minutes away for one of these teams here in Sacramento.
There's activity level on both ends of the floor. I mean, they're getting loose balls, they're getting to the 50-50 balls, they're continuing to play through with multiple levels of effort. It doesn't have to look perfect, but when you play through things, you'll find ways to put yourself in positions for success.
That's going to be the third on Medina Okot. And when South Carolina, they went on a streak, they were 1 for 8. But during that time, Oklahoma only had 2 made field goals. That was about a 2-minute stretch.
Well, Oklahoma played them even in that third quarter, and when you're trying to come from behind, you can't afford to do that. You got to be able to make shots on the offensive end and string together multiple stops on the defense.
Tanaya Latson out to McKeer. And they got McKeer is fouled, 3-point opportunity on the way.
That's the 4th time a jump shooter has been fouled by Oklahoma. This is a great drive by McKeer. You gotta live with that shot. You gotta live with them taking mid-range contested pull-ups. You can't afford those opportunities where you give them free throws and ones. And 2 of those have been three-point field goal attempts.
And South Carolina 9 for 9 from the charity stripe tonight. McKeer got it back other way. Up to head to Maddie McDaniel. The last touch by Oklahoma. Well, for the 6th straight year, every NCAA Women's Championship game is on the networks of ESPN. For more information, go to ncaa.com. It's hard to believe the Final Four is almost here.
It's almost here. It's going so fast.
South Carolina, a program that has made 5 straight Final Fours. They're the only team in the last 5 tournaments that can say that. Latson, just in rhythm.
And prior to that bucket, Tanaya Latson had scored or assisted on 72% of South Carolina's offense. She's been terrific here this afternoon. But if you're Oklahoma, you got to find a way to turn up the defensive pressure. You cannot afford to let South Carolina use an entire shot clock. You got to put some pressure on them. You got to speed them up. You got to get 3 or 4 stops in a row, come down and convert.
Chavez now with 17 points. She's hit 3 threes. But to your point, South Carolina offensively shooting 50% from the field. They're almost shooting 70% from 3.
Well, they're shooting the ball really well, and they're being disciplined on the offensive end. And if you're Oklahoma, you got to find a way to speed them up a little bit. They cannot allow them to eat the clock every time down the floor and still give up high percentage looks.
What would you do to speed them up?
It's got to be pressure on the basketball. It's got to be not allowing easy passes around the perimeter. Maybe bring a little bit of pressure.
Chavez looking for a scoop. Instead, she'll get 2 free throws. Fouled by Agat McKeer. That's the first on her. Oklahoma hasn't been to the Elite Eight since 2010. For South Carolina, they're looking for their 6th straight trip to the Elite Eight. South Carolina made it to that national final last year, lost to UConn, and I think that fueled Raven Johnson and this team. Raven specifically has talked about that her sole focus is just on winning another national championship. Now, she's been a part of 2, but the first one, she was injured and was out for most of that season.
Well, Raven Johnson took it personal in the offseason. She was committed to continuing to get better, working on her game, spent some time up in Minneapolis with Anthony Edwards and his trainer, working out 3 times a day in the weight room, on the court. Just really committed to growing her game, and it's shown.
Okot with a block. Raven Beers got it back. Chavez trying to shake McDaniel. 6 seconds. Inside to Beers. I thought Maddie McDaniel was about to get a block on Reagan Beers.
And that's one of the few times we've seen the ball get side to side, multiple passes, force rotations, and getting a touch for Reagan Beers. Passes delivered on time. Maddie McDaniel, you're right, she almost got that one.
Instead, that's her 2nd foul, and Beers at the free throw line. It took Oklahoma a while to start getting Reagan Beers the basketball, and that allowed South Carolina just jumped out to a quick lead.
Well, it's twofold. I mean, South Carolina's defense has been really good, as they have been all season long, but also being intentional if you're Oklahoma, if you don't have something early in transition about getting her a touch.
McKeer. It's going to be a blocking foul on Chavez. And then Verhulst and McKeer and Chavez got all tangled up. Second on Leah Chavez. And Chavez, a freshman who has already shown she's got a pretty high ceiling. She's come in with and carried a big load for this Oklahoma team. She's their leading scorer. She leads them in assists. She leads them at the free throw line.
I mean, she's a player who can get her shot whenever she wants it. She's a high-volume scorer. She can heat up in a hurry, learning how to play in a system, learning how to play with a dominant post player and how to run a team. I mean, as a point guard, coming in as a young player, it's a lot. It's a lot of responsibility. And, you know, she's talked about her growth and how important these upperclassmen, specifically Sahara Williams, has been to her growth and impacting her and helping her move on to the next play, understanding time and score.
Latson up ahead on the break. And she's fouled by Sahara Williams. A second against Williams. And timeout called. South Carolina up 78-54 here in the Sweet 16. Much drama at the end of that game. I mean, Michaela Williams hit those 2 free throws to give LSU the lead. And then Ashlyn Jackson, like, less than 3 seconds left.
Yes. The little sidestep 3. It was an incredible game. I mean, LSU to mount that comeback, and then Duke to withstand that run, and Ashlyn Jackson to stay in the moment, stay grounded, and step up and knock that shot down.
Remember back in the day when Duke started the season 3-6?
No,
and now they're in the Elite Eight.
I mean, look, they've got players that are in rotation that hadn't played in a long time. When you think about Ariana Robertson, you think about Riley Nelson, went through some injuries early, a gauntlet of a schedule, and stayed the course, found their way into playing the best basketball at this time, which is what you want.
Yeah. South Carolina's been playing some pretty good basketball right now. They controlled this game from the start. Oklahoma has never led. They used an early 10-0 run in the first quarter to jump ahead and stay there. Keep in mind, this is an Oklahoma team that averages 86 points per game. They're just at 56 right now with about 5 minutes to go.
Nice find.
Latson just by herself.
Yes. I mean, she's lit it up all night long.
You know, 7 for 11 from the field.
Tonight, Latson on the season, 29% from the three-point line, but you saw it from the jump. Her aggressiveness, she's locked in, she's taking the right shots.
Beers is going to be fouled.
This is a terrific find by Joyce Edwards. She sees 2 people. Great job in the diagonal pass, and Talia Latson is right there, the late closeout. She's been special here today.
And as you said, it was early.
Yes.
She hit some of the first few shots for South Carolina.
And she started off aggressive to the rim. Knocked down a couple of threes, got herself to the free throw line.
She's 8 for 8 from the free throw line. Talking about Latson, this is Beers of the charity stripe. And got both. Reagan Beers with 12.7 rebounds.
Good rotation by Stewart.
Well, Brooklyn Stewart's going to have a bright future at Oklahoma, too. Just a freshman, and she's played a big role for them. And just so coachable, Jenny Baranczyk talks about. Stewart whistled for the foul on that play. Oh, excuse me, that was on Keziah Lofton. But Brooklyn Stewart, we asked her teammates about her, asked Reagan Beers about her. And she said, you know, she always sees the good. She's the most positive person on the team, brings that big energy. Something Oklahoma's going to need in the future because Reagan Beers is a senior.
Example of what the early post entry can do. You get an early post touch, there's a collapse on the defense, and even though Stewart didn't make the layup, you force rotation. You give yourself opportunity for offensive rebounds. And South Carolina's just been so disciplined in their offensive execution. They've let the ball find the right shot. They haven't pressed in anything that they've done. They've taken the advantage when they had it in transition, but they've really been intentional about working on offensive execution and moving the basketball in the quarter court. These are the steps that Dawn Staley talked about in the first and second round. These are the areas that we need to get better. And her team is doing that on the floor. They're working on it in real time.
You know, she's talked about the Olympic team, and of course she's coached the Olympic team for the U.S. and she said on an Olympic team it doesn't matter what the individual does, it is all about the team, and they're all fighting for that singular goal, and she feels like she's seeing that mindset from this Gamecock crew.
Well, when Joyce Edwards talked about the fact that it's easy to learn from Dawn Staley because she's done it, she did it on the Olympic team as a player, she did it as a coach, she did it as an elite college player. She understands what it takes to put a team together. She understands what it takes to sacrifice for the betterment of a team, and that's what she holds them accountable to. You're sometimes going to sacrifice, as Aaliyah Chavez gets to, sometimes you're going to sacrifice part of what you can do individually for the betterment of the team. That's what you choose to do when you come to South Carolina. And what happens? You win.
Yep.
Right? You win championships.
3 national titles for South Carolina. They've been to 7 Final Fours in the last 10 tournaments. Okot. Not rushing.
I also love that Dawn Staley, she says, yes, you sacrifice for the betterment of the team, but we still want you to be you. And talking about Taniyah Latson and coming to South Carolina, we want you to be you. You got to find the right moments to do it.
And Dawn Staley's going to take a time here to get a substitution in. Well, on deck, TCU and Virginia. And Miss Virginia, if you will, Kamora Johnson, who grew up less than 5 minutes away from campus, has now got Virginia in the Sweet 16. Can they keep the run going? That's coming up after this game. Got McKeer in the paint.
I love that cut on the post entry pass. Everybody's watching the ball. Got McKeer, finds the open area.
You know, you mentioned the South Carolina players trusting Dawn, knowing what kind of player she was. It was funny to hear them say, we watched clips of her, and the first thing they mentioned was her hair.
Does that surprise you?
Yeah. How about how great she was?
Yeah.
Reagan Beers will check out of this basketball game. And an emotional moment with her and Jenny Baranczyk. Started her career at Oregon State and then came to Oklahoma and has been a difference maker.
She certainly has. And for her to choose to come to Oklahoma, to play for Jenny Baranczyk, to get Oklahoma back to where they once were, you could see the emotion.
Daniel's going to have some free throws. And Peyton Verhulst is going to check out now. Another one of their leaders, a player that started her career at Louisville and then transferred over to Oklahoma. Question, those two have helped this Oklahoma program go in the right direction under Jenny Baranczyk. Remember, they've been a top 5 seed every year under Jenny in the tournament.
Well, Jenny's just done such a great job of getting this program back. And you know, she talked about the recruiting process and getting players like Reagan Beers and Peyton Verhulst. They came to the program that knew that they were going to be a part of rebuilding. Sahara Williams, who took a chance, who came back, came to Oklahoma. That allows you to then recruit players like Aaliyah Chavez and to recruit the best of the best. This has been a storied Oklahoma program in the past, and you think about Sherry Cole and what she did for this program, and Jenny Baranczyk getting it back and getting ready to take the next step. And what does that look like? It looks like these players that are returning, taking it home in the offseason, continuing to work and remember this feeling. And then if you're South Carolina, you've just continued to put one foot in front of the other and be dominant thus far in the NCAA tournament.
And if you're South Carolina, the next step looks like an Elite Eight, getting closer and closer to it once again. South Carolina came into this game and said, we're not motivated because we lost to Oklahoma in January. We're motivated because we want to advance in the NCAA tournament. And the Gamecocks looking like a well-oiled machine. Led from the start of this game and never relinquished it. Gamecocks are elite. A 10th Elite Eight for South Carolina as they take down Oklahoma 94-68. Raven Johnson with a career high in an NCAA tournament game with 18 points, but it's Tanaya Latson leading the win.